Hi everybody, welcome to Transform Church Online once again, and I can't wait to get into the message and hear what our speaker has for us today. But before we do, please do us a favor by sharing this broadcast on your social media platform so we can reach other people with these life-transforming messages. This is as simple as clicking the thumbs up icon on Facebook, and if you're joining us on YouTube, please do the same, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We would love to see you in person, so please visit us on 88 Agar Drive, Truganina, that's in the western suburbs of Melbourne. Now, as we get into the message, feel free to engage with us and share your thoughts on the message, or just say hi and let us know where you are joining us from. Let's jump right into it and join our speaker for today, Pastor Gregory J. Williams, as he brings us this message titled, A Place to Come Home.
Last week, I was talking to you about moving house, right? And moving house is a relatively tame comparison to moving church, because there's so much logistical issues to worry about, so much things behind the scenes, so many issues of just worrying about building and construction and people and all these things that you have to worry about. It becomes quite an ordeal in your world. It actually consumes you to such an extent that you feel like you can't even function at some point. And besides that, we, as you know, the board, we have other issues to deal with behind the scenes. Church doesn't stop because we're building a new building. You know, church goes on and people have issues and concerns and worries and all these things. And more than that, we had other issues to deal with as well. So sometimes you feel like giving up. You feel like just surrendering and just saying, you know, I can't do this anymore. I can't function at this level, continue to push forward. But one thing that kept resonating in my spirit is that God did not bring us this far to leave us. God didn't bring us here to abandon us just before we get to the end. And you know, when things get hard, that's when we need to lean into God a little bit more. When things get difficult or stressful, the Lord is not absent from our life. We might be consumed with all these things that are going on, but God's presence is not diminished by the level of our stress or worry or concern. And we have the opportunity in no matter what situation to lean into God, especially when things get stressful, especially when things get hard. You know, when I look into the scriptures and I read and I remember the Lord's promise to David. You know anything about David? David was a little shepherd boy in the middle of nowhere. You know, and the prophet Samuel came and said, David, God has anointed you to be king. And he was just a young little lad, you know. He was probably no older than 13 years old. But here's the thing. Just because David got anointed to be king, the next day he didn't become king. He had to go on a journey. And that journey was sometimes difficult. And he had to face many seasons of life where he had to question whether this promise that God gave him was going to become a reality. There were times in David's life that he had to go through seasons of stress, of disappointment, of loneliness. David felt, I'm sure, there's some points in his life where he said, where's this promise from God? God gave me this promise. He said that I'm going to be king, but I'm living in a cave. I'm being hunted. I'm being chased around the country. People looking to kill me. And some old prophet guy came along and spouted off something, and I don't see the reality of God's promise in my life, because the way I'm living, what I'm experiencing, what I'm going through right now doesn't reflect what God said. And maybe the same is for you. When you look in your life, ask yourself a question, what are you waiting for? Maybe you felt like God said something to you, and you're still waiting for this promise to come into your world. Maybe some of you have heard this promise of marrying someone or being engaged to someone, and you thought it was going to be a great journey, but there's stress as soon as you got married. There's things that are going wrong. Maybe you had a dream of a dream house, and you saved and you planned and you put together your resources, and then all of a sudden the interest rates take off, and you think, where's my hope? Where's my dream for my new house? Or maybe you had a dream job that you wanted to apply for, and it came up and you said, you know what, this is my opportunity, this is my time. And you took time to send in your resume and cover letter and answer all the details and investigated how you can actually get this job. But you got no call back, and then you heard someone else got hired for this job. Or maybe you like someone, maybe at school or university, and you're thinking, that boy, I really like him, that girl, she's the one for me, but they don't even notice you. They just live their world, and you have no space in their world. We can kind of reconcile some of those things in our world because we think maybe it's just me. Maybe things are just going wrong for me. Maybe things are just not working out because, I need to get my life in order. But there's some other circumstances that's happened when you feel or God spoke a word to you. When God delivers a word to you, that's a whole different level than what you want in your life. When God declares, here's the promise. Here's what's going to happen to you. Here's where you're going to end up. And you're still waiting. That's when you begin to say, God, what's happening in my life? See, just because God spoke a word doesn't mean you're going to get it tomorrow. There's going to be a journey. See, what happened is you feel that God spoke to me and you're holding on to that promise, but the reality of that promise hasn't come yet. The dream of that promise, that hope, is not here yet. Let me share this to you. See, David was not instantly made king because the position was there for him, but David was not in a position to be king. So he had to take this journey. There were things in David's life that he had to go through to be prepared from a place to a position of authority, to be an influencer as a king in his community. David, he was hunted and he was hated. He had to go through seasons. There were times in David's life that he felt alone and desperate. And these were the times that David had to lean into God. When no one else was around, David leaned into God. When no one else was there to encourage him, he had to turn to God. And David learned to trust in God through the difficult seasons of his life because God was preparing him for a position of influence before he got there. And see, the amazing thing about God is that in times when we feel alone, when we feel disconnected, God is actually inviting us to get to know him a little bit more. Because it's in those times. You see, David had to go through some experiences. He had to battle a bear. He had to defeat a lion. He had to even defeat Goliath before he got into a position of political power. See, he had to manage nations and he had to manage armies. And even though he was in a shepherd field, he wasn't in a position to rule till God molded him to take on the right position. And when David came to the place where he would be king, God had fastened him and molded him for the position. And the only way David could learn the lessons of life was through his journey of life. See, if you arrive at a place and you're not capable of functioning in that place, then you're not actually set up for success. And God will never put you in a place that he has not prepared you for. In other words, the place might exist, the promise might exist, but you might not be ready for the place or the promise. God loves you too much to put you in a place that you are not prepared for. So, because of that, he teaches us in the values of life. He teaches us in the journey. He teaches us in the waiting. He teaches us in the quiet times. So when you do arrive on your mountaintop experience, you're ready to be there. And you're capable to do what God has called you to do through the experiences of your life. The reason you have not arrived yet to the promise that God has for you is because God is preparing you for the promise. So, if this is you, you're on the waiting, trust God. If this is you, learn from your experience of life. If this is you, while you're waiting, lean into God a little bit more. Because when you arrive, you will have arrived on time because God will not take you to a place that you're not prepared for. It took us almost 3 years from the time we bought this building to arrive here. We had to go through the turmoils of COVID and all of these construction things and delays and supplies and all these things. And I thank God for Mark, because he was actually instrumental in organizing all of that, which was so a godsend, to be honest. And God will put you in positions and bring people of influence into your life to get you to where he needs you to be. And when you're there, you'll arrive because he's prepared you to be there. So we think, God gave me this promise. I think it should go faster. God gave me this word. I think I should get it tomorrow. Why isn't God making a way right now? He gave me a word. He did give you a word. He did give you a promise. But we might not be ready to inherit the promise that he's given us, because he's preparing us along the journey of life. When we get there, we'll be ready and appreciate, honor, and thank him for what he has done in our life. And just like David, when he did arrive, he was ready to be king. And so when we arrived in this building, we were ready to possess what God had given us. And through the waiting and through the frustration and through the ups and downs of our journey, God had prepared us, transformers, to be what he called us to be influential in this community, to reach out and influence those around us, and to embrace him like never before, and to give him praise for what he has done through the lean portions of our life to the great portions of our life. God's promise will always be our guiding light. His word will always be true and will always be in his time. He is never late, and he will always do what he said he would do. And that is why we can celebrate today. And this is why David, when he looks back on the journey of his life, this is what he says. He says this about God. He said, he brought me into a spacious place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. And we can say the same thing. He brought us into a spacious place. He delighted in us because he knew our heart and what God wanted to do in us. He delights in us. And so let me tell you this morning, he delights in you, in your journey, in your season, in your life, whatever you're going through. God delights in you. Regardless of your circumstances, God's love is always present. His promise is always true. And no matter the ups and downs, he will take you on the journey of life and get you to where you need to be, because he is the God of his word. So today we celebrate God's goodness. Today we celebrate our official opening. Today we give God praise for the down seasons and for the great seasons, for the mountaintop experiences and for the valley experiences. Because if we did not have valley experiences, we would never have mountaintop experiences. So let's give God praise. So come on, jump up on your hands, jump up on your feet rather, and clap your hands and give God some praise. I want you to take 2 minutes and say, God, we appreciate you, we honor you, we love you, we give you thanks for what you've done. And even though I'm not at my end yet, I still give you praise, because I know you're doing something in me. I know you're doing something in my family. I know you're doing something in the church. I know that you have not abandoned me, because you did not bring me this far to leave me. And we can be like David and say, Lord, you have brought us into a spacious place, because you took delight in me. You took delight in me because he rescued us. No matter what you feel, God's promise supersedes what you feel, because his promise is not swayed by your circumstances. His promise rests on his ability and his word to do what he said he would do. So that's why we lean into him through difficult seasons. That's why we trust him when we can't sense, touch, or even feel what we see, because his word supersedes everything. And he will always do what he said he will do. So I want you to take 10 seconds one more time. Just give him some praise. Clap your hands. Lift your hands. Give him praise. Give him thanks. Amen. Thank you so much. You may be seated.
Thank you so much for joining us today at Transform Church, and we hope that you were encouraged by the message, and we are so grateful that you spent this time with us. Now, if you've decided to follow Jesus or just have some questions, please get in touch with us using the email address shown below, because we would love to guide you as you take these important steps. If you would like to visit us in person, we would love to meet you. Just let us know when you will be joining us, and we will be right here with open arms to welcome you and show you around. If you would like to support Transform Church, please type the link shown below into your web browser, and it will provide you with all of your giving options. It's been awesome having you with us, and we hope to see you all again very soon. Don't forget to apply what you have learned today and come back and let us know how this has helped you. Bye for now, and we hope that you have an amazing week ahead of you. See you all